With Brook Lopez officially staying in Milwaukee, the question is now, what is Jon Horst to do moving forward with the rest of this roster? And is it enough to get the Bucks back to the NBA championship? I'm Jake Finnerty, and welcome on into Bucks Digest. If you want to keep it locked on all things Milwaukee Bucks, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. But Brook Lopez, biggest news of this weekend, staying in Milwaukee per Jon Horst. He's not going anywhere. He's going to be a franchise guy, hopefully. But that leads the question, well, who's going to be shipped out here then? I said yesterday in my video, I don't think that this roster is fully equipped yet to, take that step over the hump. So who's going to be the guy, or who are going to be the guys to actually, head out of this roster? Well, I actually broke down 3 different guys that could be a possibility that, can be moved on this roster. But I want to start off by talking about one that I think is a definite lock to not move. And that's actually a guy that there were rumblings and rumors that he may be on the trade block going forward. And that's Bobby Portis. I think Bobby Portis last year showed that he's kind of here to stay, especially if Brook Lopez is here. He's going to provide the team with a lot of depth in that big man role. He was a 6th man of the year candidate as well. He really impressed last year and definitely was a guy that I think the Bucks are now seeing as a non-touchable or non-trade guy. I think they can keep him around and definitely adds a little bit of depth to the team. A team that is clearly in need of depth kind of all around at this point. One of the worst bench teams last year scoring-wise. So, and especially when it comes to injuries, they're going into the season with a couple of injuries as well, hoping that Chris Middleton will, return to his old self. And after the surgery and procedure he had done, I think they're going to need Bobby Portis. So in the short term, I think it's good to keep him around. But that brings me to the first guy that, if you've been watching my videos, I think you know where I'm going with this. MarJon Beauchamp. I mean, he's definitely on the way out, or they're going to try and see what they can do with him. The problem is, Beauchamp just hasn't shown any improvement in any of, the times that you needed him. Doc Rivers had him play in those summer league games to try and see what we can get out of him. And even then, underperformed. Just wasn't doing what the team needed him to do, or wasn't showing what the team needed to see. Beauchamp down the road may be a solid NBA player, but I don't think the Bucks are a team that he should stick with, or the team shouldn't even stick with him, trying to kind of find a place for him to fit as a home and maybe get a little bit back out of it, because Beauchamp really isn't providing anything, providing less than 3 points last year per game. It's not a good fit. It's not a good home. I think it's a good to try and move on and see what we can get for him. But that moves into my next guy, who did play in the summer league this year, and actually part of the reason why I think he can be moved is because he played there relatively well. And that's Chris Livingston. Played in the summer league, has 3 more years on his contract. Wasn't really a big factor in the Milwaukee Bucks season last year. Wasn't playing a ton in the regular season. But in the summer league, 14.8 points on 53% shooting. I know it's a little bit blocked out there. Had to kind of hone in on his stats. But yeah, I mean, I think that just proves right there. The scoring is there. The shooting percentage is there. Yes, it's the summer league, but you're still getting all of the jitters out. You get some real game action. He had a couple of games where he had even over 20 points, which were very impressive. So I actually very much think Livingston is going to be a target for some people if they do go to trade for some potential developmental talent. And Livingston, I mean, is just a guy that really they can do without. Like I said last year, he wasn't much involved in the heavy rotation, even in that depth rotation. Trying to see what they can get out of him. I think they saw they have promise, but this also gives them the flexibility of maybe we can make a move with him. Finally, a guy that was paired with Bobby Portis that a lot of people are talking about moving, Pat Connaughton. Pat Connaughton being a guy who was on this championship roster just a year after, came in and was averaging almost 10 points. But last year, dipping that all the way down to 5.6 points a game, 3.1 rebounds, 2.1 assists, 34% on three-point field goals. That was really his strong suit for this team as well, was his field goal percentage and the density that he shot the three, and shot the three pretty well, spot-up shooter. But now, this is last year's stats. He's only averaging 3.1 threes attempted per game, which is clearly very low on that list of guys. Seventh on that list, I'm sorry. And, he's actually the worst on how many of those are made. So he's below the bottom of the list on 3 points attempted per game, but he's all the way at the bottom of the list on 3 points made per game. When you have a guy like Malik Beasley, and now Gary Trent coming in and taking that role over that Malik Beasley had, well, what is kind of your use for Pat Connaughton? He's going to sit on the bench and not really know exactly what he's going to be doing. He's a guard, or he's a wing, but you have A.J. Johnson that you're bringing in and developing, and he showed a lot of promise in the summer league. I think this kind of gives you the flexibility of, do we really need to keep Pat Connaughton on this roster? Is he a guy that you want to keep moving forward with? Pat Connaughton is the guy that you'll get the most for out of these three by far. I mean, there's going to be more people involved if these trades are actually going on and happening, because you're not going to be able to send any of these guys just by themselves. Maybe Connaughton, but I think Pat Connaughton is, you got to start looking. You need improvement on the team. You need to look at other places and in other teams and how they're constructed as well. I know we know how to make a championship roster. We have two of the best, almost three of the best players in all of the NBA on our squad right now. But what else? What else are we missing? If we get rid of Connaughton, can we get more depth behind Portis and Lopez? Can we find even another spot-up wing shooter? Can we get something else? We need to make a move, and I think these three guys are the three guys that are on the doormat to go. But let me know what you think, if any of these guys are moving, who you think is moving, and as always, keep it locked on all things Milwaukee Bucks here on Bucks Digest.